The automotive world has evolved dramatically over the years, with many features once considered cutting edge now becoming a thing of the past. Some innovations were practical, others were purely for style, but over time they were replaced by more efficient or safer alternatives. From quirky additions to designs that seemed futuristic at the time, join us as we take a look back at 20 forgotten old car features that did not stand the test of time. Number 20. Running boards. Running boards were commonly used in early cars starting in the early 1900s. These narrow steps were attached to the sides of vehicles to help passengers get in and out of cars with higher bodies. They were especially helpful when roads were rough and cars had more ground clearance, making it difficult to enter and exit. As car designs improved, running boards became less needed. By the 1930s, cars were designed to be lower to the ground, reducing the need for these steps. The first car made without running boards was the 1929 Ruxton, followed by the 1936 Cord, which introduced sleeker, more aerodynamic designs. Running boards slowly became less common as car technology advanced and safety rules changed. Today, running boards are mostly seen on trucks, sport utility vehicles, and some luxury or retro-style cars, where they're used more for style than practical purposes. Number 19. Chrome hood ornaments. Chrome hood ornaments were once a symbol of luxury and elegance on early cars. These decorative pieces, often made from chrome-plated brass or zinc, were placed on the front of the car, usually on the radiator cap. They had detailed designs such as animals, mythological figures, and brand mascots like the Rolls-Royce Spirit of Ecstasy. The tradition of hood ornaments started in the early 20th century, with their popularity reaching its peak in the 1920s and 1930s. They were not only a decorative feature, but also a symbol of the car's brand and prestige. However, as car designs changed over time, the need for these ornaments decreased. By the mid-20th century, cars became more streamlined and aerodynamic, making the protruding ornaments less practical. In recent years, safety regulations have mostly eliminated chrome hood ornaments because they posed a risk to pedestrians in case of a collision. As a result, these ornaments were replaced with safer, more aerodynamic designs. Number 18. Suicide doors. Suicide doors, which were popular in the 1920s and 30s, were car doors that were hinged at the rear instead of the front. This design made it easier for passengers to get in and out of the vehicle, especially in narrow spaces. The term suicide doors came from the safety risks they posed. If the door was not properly closed, it could open while the car was moving, possibly causing passengers to fall out. This danger was particularly significant before seatbelts and advanced door latches were commonly used. The unique and stylish look of suicide doors made them a popular feature in luxury cars and custom vehicles. However, as car safety standards improved, the risks linked to these doors led to their decline. By the mid-20th century, most car manufacturers had stopped using them and switched to more secure front hinge doors. Number 17. Tail fins. Tail fins were a key feature of American car design in the 1950s, especially on Cadillac models. They were introduced by General Motors design chief Harley Earl, with the first tail fins appearing on the 1948 Cadillac. Inspired by the twin rudders of the P-38 Lightning aircraft, these fins quickly became a symbol of futuristic style and innovation. Throughout the 1950s, tail fins grew larger and more dramatic, reaching their peak with the 1959 Cadillac Eldorado, which featured tail fins and bullet-shaped taillights. This design trend was not just all about looks. Manufacturers claimed that tail fins improved aerodynamics and stability. However, as the 1960s approached, public opinion began to change. Both the public and automotive press started to see the exaggerated fins as unnecessary and outdated. Safety concerns also contributed to their decline, as the sharp edges of the fins posed a risk to pedestrians in collisions. By the early 1960s, car designs became more streamlined and practical, and tail fins were phased out in favor of safer, more aerodynamic shapes. Number 16. Bench seats. Bench seats were common in cars during the early 20th century, inspired by horse-drawn carriages. These wide, open seats could fit 3 passengers in the front, making them great for families and social outings. Bench seats were especially popular in the 1950s and 60s, offering a cozy, sofa-like experience that was perfect for drive-in movies and leisurely drives. As car designs changed, people started to prefer more individualized seating. Bucket seats, which also provided better support and comfort, began to replace bench seats. These seats also made room for center consoles and added safety features like seatbelts and airbags. By the 1980s, most cars had bucket seats, and bench seats were mostly found in larger vehicles like trucks and sport utility vehicles. Today, bench seats are rare in modern cars, though they can still be seen in retro style or luxury models for nostalgic reasons. Number 15. Manual chokes. Before electronic fuel injection became common, manual chokes were an important feature in cars. These devices allowed drivers to adjust the fuel and air mixture manually, which was especially helpful in cold weather when starting the car. The choke, a small valve in the carburetor, could be controlled by pulling a lever or knob inside the car. This action restricted the air intake, creating a richer fuel mixture that made it easier to start the engine and keep it running until it warmed up. Manual chokes were used in cars from the early 20th century up until the 1980s. However, they required drivers to know how to use them properly, as incorrect use could cause engine flooding or stalling. When electronic fuel injection systems were introduced, which automatically adjusted the fuel and air mixture, manual chokes became outdated. These modern systems allowed for better engine performance and fewer emissions. Number 14. Roll-down windows. Roll-down windows, also called wind-up windows, were common in cars before electric windows became popular. These windows worked by turning a hand crank to raise or lower the glass. They were first introduced in the early 20th century and became standard in most cars by the 1930s. The mechanism was simple and reliable, but it needed physical effort, which could be tiring, especially for larger windows. The appeal of roll-down windows was in their simplicity and the control they gave to the driver. However, as technology improved, car makers started offering electric windows in the 1940s. These electric windows, controlled by a switch, were much more convenient and easier to use. By the 1980s, most new cars had electric windows, making the manual cranks less common and eventually rare. Number 13. Luggage racks on the roof. Roof luggage racks were a popular feature on older cars, especially in the mid-20th century. These racks allowed drivers to carry extra items like suitcases, camping gear, or holiday gifts, making them perfect for family road trips. The design was simple, with metal bars or wooden slats attached to the car's roof, providing a strong platform to secure luggage. Roof racks became common in the 1950s and 60s as car travel and outdoor activities grew in popularity. They were especially common on station wagons and larger vehicles, which were often used for long trips. However, as car designs improved, the need for external luggage racks decreased. Modern cars now offered larger trunks and built-in storage options that are more secure and aerodynamic. Today, roof racks are still available but are mainly used for specific purposes like carrying bicycles, kayaks, or extra cargo boxes. Number 12. Cigarette lighters. Cigarette lighters used to be a common feature in cars, originally designed to light cigarettes, but also to power various portable electronics. Introduced in the early 20th century, these lighters had a metal or plastic casing with a coil that heated up when pushed into the socket. They became widely available in cars from the 1950s onwards, providing a convenient power source for devices like portable radios and, later on, cell phone chargers. As smoking rates decreased and concerns about its health risks grew, the demand for cigarette lighters in cars dropped. By the 1990s and early 2000s, car manufacturers began removing them and replacing them with 12-volt power outlets. These outlets, often still called cigarette lighter sockets, are now used to power many electronic devices, such as GPS units and portable air compressors. Today, most modern cars have USB ports and wireless charging stations, making the old cigarette lighters mostly obsolete. Number 11. Ashtrays. Ashtrays were once a common feature in nearly every vehicle, reflecting a time when smoking was a regular habit for both drivers and passengers. These small containers were usually built into the dashboard, armrest, or even the back of seats, offering a convenient spot to dispose of cigarette ashes and butts. During the 1950s and 60s, cars often came with several ashtrays and lighters to accommodate the smoking culture of that time. As smoking rates decreased and health concerns about smoking grew, the demand for car ashtrays declined. By the 1980s and 90s, car manufacturers started to remove built-in ashtrays, replacing them with more practical features like cup holders and storage compartments. The shift toward cleaner, more technology-focused car interiors also contributed to this change. Number 10. Swing-out headlights. Swing-out headlights were a unique feature on some older cars, created to improve visibility by swinging out from the body when in use. This design first appeared in the 1930s and was especially popular in luxury and sports cars. The purpose was to give the car a smooth, aerodynamic look when the headlights were not in use, and then swing them out to light the road ahead during nighttime driving. However, these headlights had several problems. The mechanisms that allowed the headlights to swing out were often complicated and prone to mechanical failure. Over time, they could become misaligned or stop working, leaving drivers without functioning headlights. Additionally, the headlights, when swung out, were more vulnerable to damage from road debris and weather conditions. By the 1960s, swing-out headlights were mostly replaced by fixed adjustable headlights, which were simpler, more reliable, and easier to maintain. Number 9. Vacuum-operated windshield wipers. Vacuum-operated windshield wipers were an early solution to keeping windshields clear in bad weather. Introduced in the late 1920s, these wipers used the vacuum created by the car's engine to power the wiper motor. The system was simple. As the engine ran, it generated a vacuum that moved the wiper blades across the windshield. However, this design had a major flaw. The speed of the wipers depended on the engine's revolutions per minute, so they slowed down or even stopped when the car was idling or moving slowly. This inconsistency made vacuum wipers unreliable, especially in heavy rain or snow when good visibility was crucial. Drivers often had to operate the wipers manually or deal with poor visibility at low speeds. By the 1960s, advances in technology led to electric wiper motors, which provided consistent and reliable performance regardless of engine speed, becoming the new standard. Number 8. Crank starters. Crank starters were common in early cars before electric starters were invented. To start the engine, drivers had to manually turn a handle attached to the engine's crankshaft. This process took a lot of physical strength and was dangerous. If the engine backfired, the crank handle could snap back, possibly causing serious injuries like broken wrists. To make starting cars safer and easier, the electric starter was developed. In 1912, Cadillac introduced the first electric starter, which was designed by Charles Kettering. This new system allowed drivers to start their cars with just the push of a button, removing the risks of manual cranking. The electric starter quickly became a standard feature in cars, changing the automobile industry and making cars more available to a larger group of people. Number 7. Button-activated shifters. Button-activated shifters were a new feature in some older cars, especially popular in the 1950s and early 1960s. Instead of using a regular gear shift lever, drivers would select gears by pressing buttons on the dashboard. This design aimed to make driving easier and create more space inside the car. Chrysler was one of the first companies to introduce this technology in their 1956 models. Although it looked futuristic, the button-activated shifter had some problems. It was hard for drivers who were used to traditional gear levers, and the electrical systems that controlled the buttons often broke down. Problems like blown fuses and electrical failures were common, which could leave drivers stuck or unable to change gears. By the mid-1960s, button-activated shifters were mostly replaced with more reliable and easier-to-use gear levers. Later, electronic transmission selectors took over as technology advanced. Number 6. Leaded gasoline fuel caps. Older cars often had fuel caps designed specifically for lead gasoline. Leaded gasoline, introduced in the 1920s, contained tetraethyl lead, a compound that improved engine performance by reducing knocking. These fuel caps had special designs to ensure that only leaded gasoline was used, preventing damage to engines built for it. However, leaded gasoline caused significant environmental and health problems. Lead is a toxic substance that can harm the nervous system and cause other serious health issues. By the 1970s and 80s, the dangers of leaded gasoline became more widely known, and steps were taken to phase it out. The Clean Air Act of 1996 officially ended the use of leaded gasoline for on-road vehicles in the U.S. Today, cars use unleaded gasoline, which is safer for both human health and the environment. As a result, fuel caps were redesigned for unleaded fuel, using standardized sizes and shapes to prevent accidental misfueling. Number 5. Turbine engines. Turbine engines were an exciting new technology in the 1960s, with cars like the Chrysler Turbine leading the way. These engines, inspired by jet aircraft technology, promised smoother performance and the ability to run on a variety of fuels, including diesel, kerosene, and even tequila. The Chrysler Turbine car, made between 1963 and 1964, was one of the most notable examples. It had a stylish design and was created by the Italian company Carrozzeria Ghia and was powered by a turbine engine that could reach 60,000 revolutions per minute. However, turbine engines had several major drawbacks. They were less fuel efficient than regular piston engines, often getting only about 14 to 19 miles per gallon. The engines were also costly to produce and maintain, needing special materials and manufacturing methods. They also had issues like delayed acceleration and high emissions, making them impractical for daily driving. By the late 1960s, these problems, along with the rise of more efficient piston engines, led to the end of turbine-powered cars. Number 4. Column shifters. Column shifters were a common feature in cars from the 1930s to the 1960s. These gear shifters were attached to the steering column, allowing drivers to change gears without taking their hands off the wheel. This design was especially popular in family sedans and trucks because it created a spacious front cabin, providing room for an extra passenger on the bench seat. The column shifter, also known as three on the tree, was especially common in American cars after World War II. It offered a clean and practical layout that made it easier for drivers to maneuver and park their vehicles. However, as car technology improved, the disadvantages of column shifters became clear. They were often less intuitive and slower to use compared to floor-mounted shifters. By the 1970s, the shift to floor-mounted shifters began. This was influenced by the rise of sports cars and the need for better performance and comfort. Floor shifters offered more precise control and became more widely used in modern cars. Number 3. Jalousie windows. Jalousie windows, also called louvered windows, were once a popular feature in cars and homes. These windows had parallel glass or wooden slats set in a frame, which could be tilted open or closed to control airflow. This design offered great ventilation while maintaining privacy, making them perfect for warm climates. The idea for jalousie windows came from the French word jalousie, as they allowed people to see outside without being seen. They became especially popular in the mid-20th century, particularly in homes in Florida, Hawaii, and other warm areas. In cars, they were used to provide ventilation before air conditioning systems became common. However, jalousie windows had some significant problems. They were known to leak, especially during heavy rain, making them less effective. The mechanisms could easily break, leading to durability issues. Because of these problems, they were replaced by more reliable and weather-resistant window designs. Number 2. Windshield washer pumps. Windshield washer pumps used to be a manual feature in many older cars. Drivers had to pump a handle by hand to spray washer fluid onto the windshield. This system, which was common in the mid-20th century, required a lot of effort, especially in bad weather when good visibility was crucial. The manual pump was usually found on the dashboard or the floor, and drivers had to coordinate pumping with operating the wipers, which made the task quite awkward. In the 1940s, the first automatic windshield washer system was introduced, which used a vacuum-powered mechanism. However, these early systems were not very reliable and still needed some manual input. By the 1960s, electric washer pumps became more common, offering a steady and reliable flow of washer fluid. These electric systems allow drivers to activate the washer fluid with a push of a button, making driving safer and much more convenient. And number 1, pop-out side windows. Pop-out side windows were a popular feature in early cars, designed to offer ventilation before modern air conditioning became common. These windows could be pushed outwards from the bottom, allowing fresh air to flow into the vehicle while keeping rain and debris out. This design was especially useful during hot summer months, making long trips more comfortable. The idea of pop-out windows began in the early 20th century and was commonly found in cars from the 1920s to the 1950s. However, they had some issues. The mechanisms could loosen over time, causing rattling noises and leaks. Additionally, they were not as secure as today's window designs, as they could be easily opened from the outside. As automotive technology improved, pop-out windows were gradually replaced by sliding or rolling windows, which provided better control from inside the vehicle and offered increased safety and durability. While these old car features may have been innovative in their time, they just couldn't keep up with modern advancements. Which forgotten feature do you think was the most unusual? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating automotive content.